Hi everyone, it's Susan and Adam with Mods for Quads, and today we have Mario Bonfante, and he's from Arizona. And Mario, I would like you to tell me your age and your level of injury and kind of just a brief synopsis of kind of what happened to you before we go on with the rest.
Well, I am 32 years old. I technically am I broke C4, 5, and 6. I destroyed C6, so I'm classified, I guess, as C6. Um, Things kind of change every day or week or whatever as far as minor progressions, as far as like muscles that I'm using and not using and trying to fake it till you make kind of thing, sending signals. So yeah, technically a C6, I guess you'd call it. And yeah, just been figuring things out as I go, as far as trying to make life the best I possibly can.
How long ago was your injury?
I got hurt in 2006, so this will be my 16th year anniversary in September.
Wow, okay. So you were how old? 14 or how old were you?
I was 17.
17. I don't have very good math. Well, tell
That's
us a little bit about what happened. How did it
so
happen?
I basically breached contract and do what I was supposed to do. I was racing motorcycles professionally prior to my injury and got my pro license at 16 and signed with different and in there was written that I wasn't allowed to touch a bicycle or anything with wheels and motorcycles, other nonsense. And long story short, I showed up at my buddy's dirt jumps. They just had freshly built, and they were trying to figure out who was going to hit them first because they're pretty big and a little gnarly. And I've always been a test dummy, and I had to keep going, keep my blood rate up, and keep moving forward because I had stuff going on later on that evening. And yeah, so borrowed my buddy's bike and hit the dirt jump the first time, and then didn't really make it. It kind of threw me off guard, and that's when I learned about ego. And my ego kind of took place when I threw the bike away. And my two buddies that I basically mentored as far as growing up and teach them how to build dirt jumps, how to do everything we need to do to basically tricks and all that stuff. They did it, and they came up short, but they did it. And then the whole pride thing kind of set in, and I'm like, I'm not gonna let 2 pounds of dirt defeat me. I gotta overcome this. This is, and then walk away. So I went back up second time, dropped in, and came up short, and just like they did, but I didn't crash. And I'm like, all right, I gotta make this actually legit. That's when the ego is really starting to pump up. And yeah, I hit it a third time, threw a little style in there. Felt like remembered why I enjoyed riding bicycles and doing dirt jumps and racing BMX in general. And then I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna mic drop this, and I'm gonna hit the whole 6-pack because they progressively got bigger, and there are 6 jumps in a row or whatever. And that was when it was really like just I learned that yeah, my ego kind of just took over, and I wanted to be the first one to do it all and walk away and just say, all right, have a good day, guys. And dropped in the fourth time, and they progressed. Like I said, they progressively got bigger, and thought I would speed, and it's like dropped in with more speed, missed the lip by about the width of your cell phone, and because we weren't hitting it there, it wasn't packed, and it the lip gave way, pushed, and I just Superman dove through the lip over just like 20 feet of the air and lawn darted into the lip of the next jump because they're like right after each other and real close together. So woke up on the ground, and yeah, I just remember telling my buddies to roll me over, and they didn't want to touch me. And it was like I didn't feel any pain. I didn't know I broke my neck. I knocked myself out plenty of times as a kid growing up and whatever. And I'm like, all right, well, screw you guys, I'll do it myself. And remember just trying to roll myself over. And at that point in time, I snapped out of my body, had a full out of body experience, and it was like watching everything from above, like 30 feet. And there was a real bright entity next to me. And just remember looking down, watching the fire truck, watching the ambulance, watching my parents show up, watching them pull me off the trail, put me on the gurney. And according to the paramedics, I never lost consciousness at all. I answered all their concussion questions that I can recite to you very, very accurately because I've had them question me so many times. But yeah, so according to them, I was completely coherent. But for me, I was just in a state of bliss, and it was the most peaceful thing I ever experienced. I was just watching everything and just confused. And then I remember hearing, "Do you want to stay or do you want to go?" And I was just like, "Well, what kind of question is that?" Like, and I don't know if I audibly said it. I mean, obviously, I probably was in my head, but I just remember thinking or saying in my head, "Well, of course I want to stay. I'm not done yet." And like I said, I just signed with a lot of different companies and like a new team and such, and was getting ready for the biggest race of the season, which is like Super Bowl essentially for road racing, Daytona. And yeah, and then at the moment when I said, right when I said that, I snapped right back in my body. I was laying on the gurney looking up at my parents, and I started just apologizing and crying and just kept apologizing. And they're like, "Stop, just chill out. Like it's all good. Don't worry about it. Let's just figure out what's going on. It's like, just don't worry. Just let's take care of the task at hand." And I already knew that I did something wrong. I didn't know I broke my neck. I was still in no pain at all. So I was still just completely pain free and all good. But I knew that I disrespected their wishes, basically, like I said, breached contract and just disrespected my contractual obligations as far as a professional and how I was supposed to uphold myself at that time. And for whatever reason, my life was going to be completely different at that point forward. And so that's kind of it in a nutshell for the most part. Like, there's a lot more on the internet and other things if you want to look it up more. But yeah, that's kind of how it went down and how I went down.
That's the first time I've ever heard somebody claim to be conscious and have a near-death experience. Like it just
Yeah,
kind of
I didn't
goes,
know I was conscious. That's what they told me. I answered all their questions completely correct, and
yeah,
I was
that's
I was removed.
that's really an amazing story. What is your YouTube channel? I tried to look for it before the meeting, just so everyone knows.
So it's I don't know how to change the actual name of it because it's I don't when I made it I didn't know what I was doing either, and but it's a walk WALK B as in boy D as in dog K as in king 777 is the actual channel I believe. But if you just Google my name or look up my name, it'll pop up, and then there's a little
Okay,
wheelchair dude that I designed for my logo. It's kind of my
okay,
signature.
cool. Okay, well, so what were you diagnosed with? What did they tell you was going to happen to you?
Originally, I was a Asia a uh, full sever or whatever, complete injury or whatever. So then from there, they kept like pins and all that, and became went down to like Asia C, and they realized that I wasn't complete. But originally, they had to actually they had to hang weights off my bed, off my halo, because like I said, I destroyed C6 where it was disintegrated completely, and so they had to pull my neck straight and hang weights off the back of my bed on pulleys to kind of
Yeah.
separate my neck to rebuild it all. And yeah, so I mean, I'm pretty blessed to be here as far as that goes. And they didn't know if I was going to live or die. This has a real slim chance. And if it would have, the swelling level gone up just a millimeter, they said that would have had to been get a trach. And at the time, I thought that would have been cool because I want to talk like the Godfather. But now it's still even hard for people to hear me. But yeah, I don't know. I was just they had to go in the front and the back, and I'm fusing the rear and the front. They put me back together nice and solid. They told me it was impossible to re-break my neck, and I told them that sounds like a challenge. And I didn't really break my neck, but I re-broke the screws in it. So those things aren't as strong as they say they are. So don't know when or how, but I definitely fallen on my head 3 times today already. So it is what it is, and it's not intentional. It's just trying me and working in the shop at the moment. So
Yeah.
just
So it
happens.
sounds like you weren't really given any hope to necessarily live, let alone have a active movement kind of recovery, right?
Oh yeah, I couldn't move anything. I mean, in my head, I was like, I'm gonna walk out of here. My mom even, when I was going through surgery, asked like, okay, well, is he coming home tomorrow? He'd be home in a week. How long is he gonna be in here? I mean, it's like a regular thing for myself, my dad, or my brother, or whoever, like to go to the hospital and break something, have surgery, and come out. It was not really a new thing for us. So they're like, no, I don't think you really understand or comprehend what's going on here. And it's kind of the same thing for me when I woke up, because I spent 2 weeks in the ICU and intubated and all that, and until they moved me into the rehab unit. And when they moved me downstairs or into the rehab unit, I asked the first two questions out of my mouth was, can I still have kids, and can I still race cars, or can I still race in general? And they told me, well, yeah, you might be able to have kids, you might not. You're going to have to figure that out yourself. And as far as racing goes, I think your career is pretty much over in that direction. And as far as being independent goes, which is my biggest thing in general in life, like, yeah, you'll basically have to check in or have somebody with you at all times. And all I was able to move was my my throttle hand. So sorry, kind of spasms going on. So I was able to just twist my wrist, move my wrist up just slightly, and that was all I was able to move. And they were stoked on that, like, oh, we can put you in a power chair, you're good to go. I'm like, all right, no, I'm gonna work this out. Like, I'm not being in a power chair. I'm gonna race something. I'll work. Like, it's a helicopter, or submarine, or a spaceship, or whatever we figure out. I'm gonna figure out how to go fast.
Yeah.
That's what I do. So I don't know. I've always been a problem solver my entire life, have my own way of doing things, and I actually had 3 therapists quit on me because of that. So they didn't like that I wasn't listening to their way of how I'm supposed to live my life now that I'm a quadriplegic, and they're able-bodied, and they don't really understand different situations and how I operate. So I just didn't really accept it. So it was what it was. But yeah, I
So
just kind of,
let me wrap my brain around this, because you've been injured now, did you say 16 years?
it'll be 16 years in September. Yes.
Okay, and so you were
So about
told you're
15.
never gonna race again, walk again, whatever, barely even survive. Took that into your own hands, which is kind of what Mods for Quads is wanting to showcase, that what happens to people when they do that. And sounds like you come from a long line of exceptionally highly functioning adrenaline seeking people.
Something
Right?
like that. A drug of choice. Yeah.
Yeah. And so if you were to tell me in a nutshell, like, you had physical therapy, obviously, and you kind of just took it into your own hands. And so now your function, it looks like you have some core function, you have arm function. I saw you transfer yourself out of bed in one of your videos.
Mhm.
Not only
Yeah.
that, but so you've gained, are you independent? Like, do you have to have full-time care?
No, but it helps. I mean, like, I'm moving 50-pound pieces of metal around, like the 20 pound, 20 foot long pieces of square tubing. I'm working on moving around. I keep cutting my hands up all dirty about from today, just getting all cut up to the well together for different things for building for the company. But
And
yeah.
how did that happen? You just practiced and practiced moving and using your brain and making a connection, and like just continue all these years? Like, how did you get all the function back?
I don't know. Fake it till you make it, I guess. It's just like they say that your spinal cord is the main freeway, but there's all your nerves are connected, so there's back roads everywhere. And so yeah, I was telling Adam yesterday that I'd basically, once I was able to I'd push myself until I couldn't, and then take a little break and keep pushing. But I took the public transportation everywhere until I was able to drive myself, and I'd be pushing to the bus stop, and the bus would stop or pass me when I'm like maybe 100 yards away. I'd still be able to see the bench in sight, but didn't want to sit there. Just my stubbornness kind of pushed me further than where I should have been. And just would push to the next bus stop, and another next bus would pass me, and I'm like, all right, well, I'll just keep going. And then so the miles added up completely, and I'd slowly cut my backrest down to not even have really core stability, but just understand how the mechanics of the body work. Because when I originally got hurt, I told doctors to cut my legs off. I'm like, just chop them off. They're in the way. I can't. Like, they're dead weight. And like, you're probably gonna want those when they figure out how to make you walk again. And I'm like, all right, well, we'll wait a month or two and we'll figure it out then. And now that I've actually figured out how to use them and wade into them and transfer into them, as far as therapy goes, and you want to call it that, I kind of had my own source of therapy, and that was one of them. Is just pushing and just generally pushing 5 to 10 miles a day, and for the most part, and seeing how fast I can do it. And then I'd like fall out of my chair just unintentionally or spasm out and be in my room or whatever. And be yelling and screaming and wouldn't ask for help, but just be cussing and being on the ground trying to figure out how to get back to my chair. And my mom would come in and freak out and, oh my gosh, you all right? What's going on? Let me help you up. Let's do this, whatever. And I'm like, Mom, it's all good. I'm doing therapy. And she's like, what do you mean you're doing therapy? I'm like, well, if you weren't here with me, or if I wasn't with you, or we were out in public together, or you weren't around, or there was no one else around, and I'm cruising around downtown, I fall out of my chair and I'm by myself, I don't expect anybody else to do it for me. I got to figure out how to do this myself. Because if I'm still yelling and screaming and cussing in an hour, maybe come back in and I'll maybe take the help. But for now, let me try to work it out. So it's just mechanics and the actual physics and way your body works and what you can use and what you can't use. And like I said, I've mentored a lot of people before, and I've learned there's two ways to transfer. And one is just throwing your head all the way forward and using your counterbalance as far as your weight. Your head weighs 6 pounds. So you throw it between your legs, it's going to pick your butt up pretty easily, which is why I keep falling on my head and I'm leaning over today and moving stuff around the shop. But so there's a lot of ways to do things as long as you position your body in the right situation where you're not going to snap an ankle or something like that. And once I learned that, it's just, no stopping, kind of figuring it out.
So 16 years out, do you feel like you're still making recoveries? Like you're still gaining? Or do you feel like you've reached that plateau?
So I beat myself up pretty good. I've got a couple of things that I need surgery on that they won't do on me because I'm too skinny and can't gain the weight back. I had 3% body fat when I got hurt and was on a really strict training program and diet and everything else from racing. And so I lost 35 pounds in 2 days because they say your body knows what it needs, what it doesn't need. And I didn't have any fat for it to eat, so it ate all my muscles. And I went from 137 pounds to 102 pounds. And that's just how it went, because I just have a high metabolism and was very active and just, So now trying to gain weight and having the issues that come with being a quad and all that, as far as digestion and everything. When I eat, it makes me more spastic, be more nerve pain and everything else that comes along with it. So just kind of figuring out what works best and what works for what scenarios and what situations. So sacrificing succeed in different areas.
Yeah, that's one of the things we're trying to showcase too, is that, like having people like you give us information on what kind of diets worked for you, what hasn't, and Adam has a lot of input on that too. And then just letting people watch like little 10-minute clips, so that you can get an idea of like the sharing is where it's all about.
Yeah.
Having a center place for everyone to dump shared information. So I would like to have you kind of showcase to everyone where you're at now, like what your creative brain has allowed you to do and what you've developed with your, what am I trying to say? Simulation with the race car driving and everything. So tell us what's driving you now.
What's driving me now is just basically helping everyone else do what they're not doing themselves. And basically, I obsess over everything. And when I first got hurt, I wanted to figure out what people were doing and what they weren't, how and why, and everything else that goes along with it. And figured out no one was racing a car, so I wanted to race something. And the car was the easiest, quickest option because they kept saying hand controls, and I didn't even know what the hand controls looked like when they kept talking about them. And when I got in the car and tried to use them, I was like, all right, these are not going to let me race the way that be able to perform the way that I need to perform or want to perform and be able to actually drive at the extent that I want to be able to drive at and have no excuses. So I created the controls originally for myself. And when I put the video out for sponsorship and whatnot, it got more views and more traction, I guess, and more attention from different quads around the world. They were like, wow, this is awesome. Are you going to sell these? Can I get them? How much are you going to pay? Or how much are you going to charge? When are they going to be available? Kind of thing. And that's a whole nother situation that with patenting and everything else that I kind of screwed myself on. But it was just more, it's just trying to help people live life to the fullest. I mean, I live life in all aspects. I just love racing a little bit more. So if you want to go fishing, I'll help you go fishing. You want to go to take pictures, you want to go, go through the forest, go figure out how to do whatever you're trying to do, ride a motorcycle. I'm a problem solver. I'm not an engineer. Everyone puts the label of I mean, I'm just figuring out how to get something done needs to be done that somebody else can't do in a certain way. Because we're just like, the easiest way to explain it is if your hands didn't work, there would be no round doorknobs ever invented. And that's kind of the bottom line. If you have no fingers to grab them, you're not going to have a round doorknob. You have a lever. You just push your hand down. It's pretty easy. So there's a way to do everything.
Developed a patented way to drive a race car as a C6. Would be curious to like see your video. I'd love to watch it a little bit more detail, but so right now you're sponsored and racing against able-bodied people, as I understand it, right?
I am, and I have the controls right behind me. If you want me to grab them right quickly.
Okay.
In the shop, they're actually the original prototypes, but hang on a second.
I'll pause.
So these are the original ones. I'll back up a little bit. So they hop on the wheel just like that. Sorry.
Is it heavy?
Cumbersome. Yeah, they're about probably 15 pounds. That's what I had to work on. So you can turn them around a little bit. So you basically hold on to them from your perspective, and then they lock your hands in. They got those spools on the tops and bottom. So you can basically assist yourself as a quad because you don't really have triceps to push up with your pull up with your bicep and push down with your tricep you don't really have. And when you're going left or right, and you square yourself off on the wheel, and it's got a twist throttle. Right hand side you pull back for upshift, push forward for downshift, and then the left hand side articulates forward for the brake. So it's pretty much all inner ingrained. Oh, we have lots of dogs coming over. What's up? Where are all these dogs?
So do you feel like you have to have a certain amount of mobility to be able to do that?
For the most part, not really. It's just you just got to be able to move your arms. I mean, as far as strength goes, maybe, but it's honestly very intuitive, and it's as long as you know how to drive a car and can comprehend the fact that, I mean, it's really easy, honestly. All you got to be able to do is this, and if you could do that, you're good to go. So I developed them on whatever. I mean, if you have biceps and if you could lift your arms up or just turn. So I have them focused on my biceps and shoulder muscles essentially, because that's essentially what a quad has, and that's what I now have. Like I call them bi-tris. I don't have full triceps, but I have triceps that are a little bit better than they were when I first got hurt. But it's, as far as strength goes, with the technology these days, it's been quite amazing with all the electronic steering racks and electronic steering pumps. So it makes it really simple to steer, and the car not so heavy. And yeah, you can kind of dial it in a lot of different ways than when I developed them in 2012. So
are your sponsorships are taking care of the equipment, the vehicles, the race entry fees, like they're covering everything for you, or how's that work?
It is work. That's what it is. It's not as easy as everyone thinks and glamorous everyone makes it look. So I call it the race to race when you're not actually on the track. So if you don't have a manager or someone doing it for you, it's you're just a billboard to them. And I learned that really quickly when I got injured. They wrote me off just as quick as, actually even quicker than they wrote me on. And I was no use to them anymore as far as being able to display their product in front of the eyeballs and the demographics they like or want. So yeah, you're constantly looking for somebody to put their brand on you as opposed to a park bench or a city bus that they know that gets a X amount of eyeballs on. So like social media is a huge thing. I hate social media and I love it at the same time because it's a good way for us to connect and for everyone to get information and how Adam and I connected and all that. But it's a toxic thing for people that don't know how to use it correctly, and they get just absorbed in stupid worlds of nonsense. But that's the one thing that sponsors ask for and partners ask. They don't even like the word sponsor. They're partners because that's what it is. You scratch their back and they scratch yours. So the more you're able to offer them as far as showcasing their product in the right light, in the right demographic and everything else, the more they're able to give you. And the way you can display that is by direct viewership. So YouTube has numbers Instagram has numbers, everything has analytics. So when you can display that, as opposed to knowing a city has 40,000 people in it and the bus goes around it 10 times a day and the logo on the side of the bus gets seen by X amount of people, it's a little bit easier to digest as a business perspective and understanding from ROI. So that's kind of what a racer has to comprehend, understand. It's all marketing.
So what's one of the biggest holes or challenges you have to do what you want to do? Is it sheer money or is it just help or what is it?
Basically, it's my dreams are too big for my pocketbook. So that's the unfortunate thing as far as being able to help people the way that I want to help them in different areas of life and different situations that I've different things that I've developed as far as products and assistive devices. But I mean, and help as well. Like I've hired 3 different people in the last since January to help with the company, and people don't want to work. I don't know if it's because of COVID or whatever it is, but and I hold myself to a really high standard, which I try not to hold people to. But I mean, I sleep 3 or 4 hours a day just because there's too much to do, and it takes me much longer to do everything else, obviously. So I've had 3 people just not show up, just quit coming to work.
Yeah, that whole work ethic thing is it's mind blowing actually.
No,
I
it's
have 2
baffling.
sons that are in the early 20s and it's interesting to watch how the world has changed for sure.
Yeah, and the entitlement that this country has is pretty interesting because I spent a year in Scandinavia right before COVID in 2017 or 2018, racing over there. And well, for one, the food made my body feel so much better because it was so much cleaner. And 2, the morale and the work ethic and just like the actual lifestyles, the way that they let them and interacted with people, and there's no BS. Like it's just straight up like I can help you or I can't. There's no like sugarcoat. And
right.
like living in
Back to the
Orange County.
sandbox rules of kindergarten.
Yeah, exactly. So no, I appreciated that a lot more than I did like living in Orange County, where it was just like, yeah, I'd love to help you. This is a great story. It sounds like it's really amazing what you've done, what you've accomplished. Give me a call tomorrow. Here's my card. And you call and you get a dial tone. And it's just like, okay, this is why would you tell me something when you really don't mean it? So it's kind of discouraging, and at the same time, was kind of embarrassing to be honest. Cause I was like, first 2 questions I was asked when I was there was, what are you doing here? And did you vote for Trump? And I'm just like, well, I don't talk politics and I'm here racing cars. And then it gained their interest. So it's they decide right away if they want to, like, if they like you or they don't, and they'll tell you straight up. And
so they really liked you if you voted for Trump. No, I'm just kidding. We won't get into that. Well, what we're trying to create here, Mario, is, as you know, when you talk one quadriplegic to another quadriplegic, you already have instant brotherhood and instant understanding and appreciation for the battles that you've each gone through. And so I would, love to have you be part of just our community that can share and show up for each other, in that way
100%.
that you're talking about. And I guess, I would just like to ask if there's anything else that you want to say to people that are maybe newly injured, or a big nugget or something that you feel is really special to pass along to people that are listening to this.
I would just say, don't be afraid to fail, and push your limits. Nobody knows the limits as far as even regular human beings, as far as regular able-bodied people. No one pushes them, and they're just too afraid to try. So, I mean, I would just say to avoid any assistive devices you really can, and push yourself until you can't, and let those assistive devices come into play when they need to be, and otherwise just let yourself work and feel the pain, because pain is weakness leaving the body, they say, right? So the more you work and the more pain you feel as far as gaining strength and working on your you need your shoulders for everything, especially getting your cart, your chair in and out of the car when you're breaking it down and all that other stuff. So just push and don't be afraid to fall and figure out how to get back up when you do, because no one else is going to do it for you. That's the bottom line. Otherwise, I wouldn't be out in the shop right now, and I've been out here since 4:30 this morning. So it's just, if I was able, I'd be done already with what I'm doing. But it's just
Yeah. Your drive is
a lot harder,
incredible.
but try not to act on help. It doesn't. I'm not aiming for incredible. I'm just aiming to get things done for other people, because there's a lot of things that need to be done, and if everybody else has their own skills and different talents and different abilities to do different things and understanding and outlook on different areas, like what you're doing right now with this community you're building, and if everyone played their part, it would be a lot easier. So yeah,
Yeah.
just don't be afraid to try.
I think that's such great advice, and just, really authentic advice too, coming from the heart. What's your next big thing that we should keep our eyes open for when we're looking for Mario crossing the finish line? Is there any big race or anything that would be fun for us to look at?
I mean, I actually have a sim racing team that's racing in about 5 minutes. But so got into the sim stuff because of COVID and because of contractual obligations with sponsors. But I actually kind of put my career on the back burner this year to be able to create the controls and be able to build a business and be able to do everything that I would like to do for everyone else. And so at the moment, I've been talking to different people, and was supposed to be going to Sweden and race the team out there. But then this whole, for one, not luckily, but it kind of worked out that way, where the Ukrainian thing and the Russian thing's going on at the moment. So I don't know what's going on with that series and situation. But I just told them I wasn't going to be able to make it this season, because I'm focusing on just helping develop the industry that we're doing, and the fact that it's being raped the way it is by different companies and thinking everyone got a big settlement or insurance is going to pay for it or whatever it may be. It's not fair. It's not right. And I shouldn't be sitting on a $6,000 chair that's made out of $100 worth of material, and it's just a joke. So
Totally.
that's kind of what I'm focused on at the moment. And then everything else that comes along the way, I've got a lot of sim stuff that is coming for people that are not really able to leave the house, but still want the freedom to have an actual interaction with the world and still have a good time if they want to race cars, or just in general play video games or whatever. And then I'm talking to a couple of different racing schools about getting them all developed and equipped with the controls, as well as putting me in a car. Also, that's kind of the bonus that comes along with putting their hand controls in their cars. I get to use them. So there's a lot of things on the back burner that I can't really talk about at the moment. But for my personal career. But as far as the business and everything else goes, that's just kind of my main focus at the moment. And then being able to take care of the community, be able to take care of anybody that needs assistance, and take care of my family, to be honest. Pay my parents back for what they allowed me to do as a kid.
Yeah. Well, I'm super excited to have met you, and it'll be yet to be seen how we carry forward together, but I have a good feeling that we can help each other out, hopefully.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
Okay.
And I appreciate you guys having me on. So like I said, it was a really serendipitous thing how Adam reached out and how it all worked out. So I'm glad he did.
Yeah.
And like I said, any way I can help anybody, just let me know. Don't ever hesitate to reach
Mario.
out.
My heart goes out to you. And Adam, do you have anything that you want to say?
Well, I just want to thank Mario for joining us and sharing his story. It's like so humbling to talk to him and see his level of perseverance, and against a lot of odds, and to see how he's pushed himself year after year, outperforming everyone around him despite his challenges. So I'm going to use the word inspiring because it truly is. And you're an asset to the community, man. And you're going to give a lot of people hope that, and you already have. So it's a pleasure, man. It's an honor to meet you.
No, I appreciate that. And we'll keep talking about that, Zuby. We're going to get you driving quick. So I look forward to it. And it's been a pleasure to just, see what we do in the future.
Okay. Well, I'm going to stop the recording, and then